It started just growing up, going to church. It wasn't until I was probably in Afghanistan where it really kind of smacked me in the face a little bit more. One of the guys that was attached to us, he was an FBI agent, was like, hey, I'm going to church in the morning. I was like, sounds like a great idea. I should totally go with him. He's a follower of God. Why am I not expressing it the same way he is? And that's where it was one of those things like, you need to step up or shut up. The words that you speak mean a lot. You can be out in the world with all of those people doing all those terrible things. That doesn't necessarily have to affect you if you choose not to.
What happens when a military dad decides he's had enough of watching entrepreneurs work 18-hour days for their families without ever really truly seeing them? And today I jam with Adam La Barr, a former military officer turned business buyer who's figured out how to expose his kids to the real world without losing their innocence, and how his faith is driving his business decisions and partnerships. So knuckle up, because Adam is a no-holds-barred type of dude. And in this conversation, we get intentional and talk about intentional fatherhood, smart business moves, and keeping your priorities straight. Now enjoy this episode with Adam La Barr. Welcome back to the show, folks. I am always your happy and humble host, Erik, and I'm so excited for you to be here with me because I got a brother from another mother who's been in my world and network for a long time. And shockingly, and I'm embarrassed to even admit this, he has not been on any of my shows. So I have to apologize to Mr. Adam La Barr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I grabbed the tissues right before that and we were discussing that. I wiped my tears before the recording started, thinking that, man, this is finally happening. So,
dude, it's so wild because our network is so big and it's grown right over time because you're an OG GoBro as well. And like, man, it's just like, there isn't enough weeks in the year. And I guess I'd have to have a daily podcast to hit up everybody.
Yeah. And even if you had a daily one, it'd still take a couple of years to get them all.
So. Right. Yeah, exactly. So no, I'm glad we finally got to connect here, especially when it comes to faith-centered, Christ-centered conversations, brother, because that's what inspired me. Absolutely. Seeing your message, seeing you share with what your family's doing, what you're doing in business, you're buying a business. So I do want to jump into, that's super exciting. You started sharing a lot of details before we turned the camera and the mics on. And I want to get into that. But I also want to start with basically your testimony. Yeah. How did your walk with Christ start?
I'd say it started just growing up, going to church. My mom, she grew up Catholic and then left the Catholic Church. And then I'd say a lot of growing up, we were in like semi-Pentecostal, not like hyper-charismatic type of Pentecostal churches. But once I left for the military, I'd left for the military right after high school. Like less than a month after graduating, I was gone. And then it was time for me to kind of figure out my own way in life. I grew up in the church. I knew that I was a follower of Christ. I don't have like a testimony of like, well, on July 2nd, 2000, like I don't have anything like that. Right. But
that's actually my birthday.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Very good. All right.
That's pretty good.
So I went in the military, and it was one of those things where you're not around a ton of Christians in the military. And if you are, they don't really, you don't really see them very much, right? They're very quiet about it. But obviously living in America, everybody's a Christian, quote unquote, but it doesn't mean they're actually a Christian. They just, we're from a semi-Christian nation, so they call themselves Christian. But it wasn't until I was probably in Afghanistan where it really kind of smacked me in the face a little bit more. So I was deployed to Afghanistan. I was with the Army Special Forces guys. I was not a Special Forces guy by any means. I was a dog handler, so my job was to go out and find bombs. And they attached me to these guys that are like doing helicopter inserts into people's front yards and stuff. And I was like, this is great. But all of a sudden, one of the guys that was attached to us, he was an FBI agent, super in shape dude, was on the FBI SWAT team, was like, hey, I'm going to church in the morning. I was like, it sounds like a great idea. I should totally go with you. And I always hated going to military churches because I felt so political. And so like, I felt like they had to walk on eggshells because they were in the military, as opposed to stepping on my feet. They're stepping on eggshells. And I was like, come on, like, what are we doing? Like, step on my toes. Let me know that I'm screwing up. Like, I need to hear this. Right. But it was one of those, I was like, man, this guy is doing some of the same stuff I'm doing. He's a special agent in the FBI that's gone on all sorts of like, different missions and different things. And he's a follower of God. Why am I not expressing it the same way he is? And that's where it was kind of one of those things like, you need to step up or shut up, dude. Like, and I'd say that's when I really buckled down, and I wouldn't say that's when I made my own decision. I'd say that's when I confirmed my decision and said, it's time for me to make this happen. Which was good because it lined up with just a couple years later, I ended up getting married. And that was another eye-opening thing. Like, well, now you're the leader of a family. Like, it's time to figure this out.
Yeah. Wow. So how much of your faith at that time factored into your life partner or wife choice?
Oh, very much. Yeah. And same with her, thankfully. Right. So, I had known, even before I went to Afghanistan, I was always wanting to find a Christian woman because I knew that was going to make it better off for me. Not because was a super strong Christian, but because I'm a Christian and I know this is wise and I don't want to be unequally yoked and I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things. And, it was almost like a checkbox more than it was like a commitment. And it was like, oh yeah, she just needs to be a Christian. And then when I actually found my wife and we started having conversations, it was like, well, this isn't a checkbox. Like this is somebody I'm going to be building a future with and raising kids with, and we need to be on the same page as a lot of these things. And that's when it was really more eye opening to see like, man, this makes a massive difference in my life to actually choose a Christian woman to live my life with.
So how on a scale of 1 to 10, where were you? 10 being, I guess, blissful. Who knows what that is? So, but I mean, and then 0 being like, I don't even acknowledge, the existence of him. But like on that scale, were you? Where was your wife when you guys met?
I'd say probably me at a 5, her at a 7. So, I was kind of a lukewarm Christian. I wasn't doing a bunch of things I shouldn't have been doing necessarily, but I was definitely not doing the things I should be doing, if that makes sense. I was just kind of playing the part of a Christian, knowing that this is what I was supposed to be doing, but not like dedicating my life to it.
How much of the conversations were you guys having before you had children, was about like, hey, how are we going to create this as a foundation or not?
Well, we immediately had made it a part of our foundation, right? So once we started talking about it, that was, an additional slap in my face of like, no, like this is totally what needs to happen, right? And I need to make this a part of what I'm doing. I started digging into the Bible more like she already was. So it just made it a lot easier for us to just know like, hey, no, we're raising our kids as Christians. I'd say the harder part was later on when it was like, okay, what kind of school are they going to go to? Where I was like, public school prepared me for adulthood. Like I was able to see so much of what is out there in the world. And she was like, nah, with the private Christian school. And I felt like it helped preserve me. And I was, because I went to parties in high school that, there was drugs there was alcohol there was all sorts of stuff going on. And I was like, boy, by the time I joined the military, I knew all the stuff was out there. I knew what to avoid. It wasn't a big deal. And I was the guy in high school that, if there was a party at my friend's house, they were like, the parents were like, okay, you can only have the party if Adam's going to be there because we know he'll take the keys and he'll make sure everybody gets home safe. And like I was that guy in high school, right? So, but the cops came, I was the guy to talk to the cops. So, I mean, I was like, all right, I already know how to handle these situations. And then once we started having kids, I was like, nah, like my wife is totally on track on this one. Private school is where it's at. Like, there's no way. Like if I can teach my kids the stuff that I learned by other kids. I can teach them. I can show them what the world has. They don't have to be, again, they're in this world, not of this world. I can teach them what is out there without having to expose them to it and let other people control how it goes. I can control how it goes.
Wow, this is so good, dude. How old are your kids again?
10, 6, and 2.
10, 6, and 2. That's great. So we have 2, 11 and 8. So we have the same age range. So I'm going to learn a ton from you here. So I'm going to paint a picture for those who are listening as well. Is within GoBundance, there's a ridiculous amount of success in that room, right? To qualify, you have to have a net worth of at least $1 million. There's a lot of guys who we've seen elevate and become decamillionaires. So not to brag, but to just give you context that there's a different set of problems that we discuss right within that group that are very unique. But one of those is our children being entitled. The second part of the equation here is, as this is all, like I said to you earlier, new to me in terms of raising our kids in a Christian household. It's been like very intentional over the past 2 to 3 years. So they grew up, my oldest remembers me without being a faithful father and a God-fearing man. So now it's like shifting. So there's two bubbles, right? Because there's that sort of insulated experience of living in a nice white collar neighborhood, but then there's also the insulation of now they're only around Christians and we homeschool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Erik, dude. So here's my question to you, dude. How do we expose them? Like you said, you and I grew up in the public secular world where we knew all the trappings. Mm-hmm. How are you educating them, but at the same time having them experience it? Like, because that's really the true way for them to see it, feel it, touch it.
There's some things like cocaine is not what I want them to see, feel, touch, right? So we'll talk about those things, right? So I have the benefit of my wife and I are both. She's soon to be retired. Me, I'm already done. Former federal agents, so we have experienced a lot of what goes on in the world. We have arrested everybody from drug traffickers to child predators to interrogating potential spies to all sorts of stuff that we've done. So we have so many tools in our toolbox to be able to say, hey, I remember this thing happened here, right? So I'll take an instance of something very minor on a TV show that we're watching, right? And then be able to turn that into a story of, hey, so this is how these things work, or this is how one of those things works, and then have a conversation about it. I'm not afraid to have the conversations about it if they want to talk about drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it is, age appropriate, of course, right? So my 10-year-old gets a different conversation than my 6-year-old, and my 2-year-old really doesn't, she's just focused on the fish and the snake and the house. Like, that's all she cares about, right? So she's not really focused on what's going on. But also being able to hey, we drive by and one day we drove by this homeless guy. I'd like to go and buy meals. I don't give money to the homeless. I'll go buy them meals because I don't know what they're going to do with the money. And that's something I tell my kids. I was like, hey, a lot of times homelessness has something to do with drug and alcohol addiction. It's not always about they just don't have the money for it. Something happened in their life that led them down this path to get them there. So by blessing this person and giving them a meal that they weren't expecting, I'm able to have a conversation with my kids about what happens in life and how those things happen. And so, and same thing, like if I want to drink a glass of bourbon or two with my buddies, I can have a conversation about that. Like, well, what happened? Like, why is it an adult drink? What's going on with it? And then I have a conversation about what can happen if you have too much and how it's a sin. Like, there's nothing wrong with having it. Like, Jesus, that's like his first miracle was making wine for people to be able to celebrate and have a good time. And it was not actually grape juice, no matter what some of the strong Southern Baptists or Pentecostals will tell you. It was
I've never
wine.
heard that.
Right. Oh yeah. They're like, oh no, it was just really good grape juice. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. Like it's such a shelter. But I'm able to have those conversations. So, it's not perfect. I don't know if I'm doing what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. Sometimes you don't find out till they're adults and then you've realized what you screwed up. But I'm doing what I think is best for them to kind of be exposed to and understand what's going on. It's the same thing. Like if there's a movie on, we've got what's called VidAngel, and it's kind of not every movie is in there, but you can go in and filter out different scenes in movies. So they can watch some of the movies still.
No way.
And, yeah, like you can control the filters that are there. So you can get literally scene by scene. It'll kind of tell you what happened in that scene. And you can say, now block that one out or whatever, right? So it's really awesome that I get to watch some fun movies with my kids that are maybe PG-13 or R, and it eliminates a bunch of the stuff. But then we get to have a conversation about why we're getting rid of that. And I told him, I said, look, the words that hit your eardrums don't change you into a different person necessarily. When it comes out of your mouth, it can change you into a different person because it's starting to control the way your brain thinks and the way your heart feels. So the words that you speak mean a lot, but you can be out in the world with all of those people saying all of those things, doing all those terrible things. That doesn't necessarily have to affect you if you choose not to. So I don't mind if you hear things. I don't mind necessarily if you see things. Obviously, I'm not putting pornography or even nudity or anything like that on the screen, but there are things you're going to see and hear that let's just talk about it. It's okay.
Okay. So mostly from what I'm gathering, and you can add on to this, exposure through content, television, movies, books, things like that, versus taking them over to the rough part of town, or
we'll drive through some of those and see some of the. Thankfully, at Tampa, there's not a whole lot of rough parts of town, too much, right? So, but no, we'll have those conversations as well when we're going through different areas. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what about, has there ever been an experience or plan to, do some sort of missionary type of work where, you're building homes in like Mexico or something along those lines? Because that's been on my heart too. I'm like, how can I just get their hands dirty?
Yeah.
I have to do it too, but
for sure. I would love that. I mentioned before we started recording, my wife retires in a week and a half from the military. So that opens up a whole new aperture of opportunities for us to be able to kind of explore and do things and go and serve in ways that we haven't been able to before. So I am definitely looking forward to that. And our church does a lot of missions once they get into like that junior high range. So my son's about to go into middle school. Middle school here starts in 6th grade. So he's going to 6th grade. He's about to start to do all of the middle school things. We've got a middle school camp coming up. Literally starts the day after my wife retires. So it's going to be hectic in my house as I'm one of the leaders at the camp. But but I want to be able to expose them to those things that, it was impactful for me. I remember I think I was in junior high, maybe early high school. We did a mission trip to New York City. And we were like giving food out and handing out, tracts and all different things. And it meant a lot to me to kind of be there and see that. And I would love to have my kids experience stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other sort of missions outside of that are like bucket list for you?
No, and I don't think I've tagged anything necessarily bucket list mission wise on there. Honestly, it's not one of those that has been on a peak of my brain. I should put it on there more. But I want to bring them around to all sorts of different places. And it's one of the things I love about GoBundance too, is when we go on like those small tight trips where there's only like 15 dudes that go to some country, they go and help build a house or, bring a bunch of clothes for folks, or they do something to give back, which means a lot to me. And that's something I'd love to be able to do everywhere we travel with the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Winters is one of those guys that I'm always like trying to sync up with, because he does those,
Nice.
Like, hey, just bring a bunch of GoPros. And every, year, whenever he's doing it, he messages a bunch of us. And yeah, that's for sure. Like you said, on the check, on the list at some point. So I'm excited about so many things in your life that I'm like, I want to pull on that thread. I want to pull on that thread. I want to continue down the dad stuff first before we get into this new business you're buying and that, being in the business of buying businesses, it's fascinating. Right. And, but talk a bit about BizDad and what started it, and then, your mission there.
Boy. I know we were trying to keep this to 45 minutes, and I have already talked a lot, so I'll try to keep this story quick. So when I was in the military, I saw a lot of failed marriages, a lot of dads who never saw their kids. I'd find out years later they had kids, and I never knew it. I was like, how did I not know you had kids? Like, this just doesn't, but when they never see their kids, they don't talk about their kids. Yes. So as I continued seeing that, I've wanted to be a dad since I was like 13 years old. Like, this is just something I've wanted to do. Is like, I knew I wanted to be a dad. So then to see all of these dads do that, I was like, it doesn't make sense to me. So then we started having kids, and the military was sending me all over the place. My oldest son's first birthday, I was deployed to Africa. So I'm in Africa, in Niger, on a FaceTime, watching him, bust into his first cake. Doing the thing, looking at his mop of hair, because I refused to let my wife get his haircut while I was gone. I wanted to be there for my first kid's first haircut, So he's got like this mullet going on. It's all curl, and he's smashing his cake, and I'm watching it on FaceTime crying. And I'm like, I'm not even there, But I knew that I was like, man, I'm doing something good. This is, thankfully, like my combat deployments, Iraq and Afghanistan, I'd already had before I was married. So that I couldn't imagine having to have done that, like in a combat zone, sitting in a mountain in Afghanistan, watching my son's first birthday. I could not imagine what some of my friends were going through during that time. Right. But then we moved to Japan. And not to mention, so before I even deployed, my wife and I were stationed at 2 different bases. So it's like, man, like, because the military couldn't put us together. But once we went to Japan, we were able to be together, and we lived in the same house again. And but I was sent all over the place. I've got a going away gift above my head that says, Adam, always TDY, which means temporary duty. You're sent somewhere. Always TDY La Barr. Thanks for visiting. And that was my going away from my permanent station, because I was always gone. And I like, that was where I was really like, this is how those divorces happen so often. This is how some of these things work. But my wife and I are really dedicated to making sure that we stayed together and being positive and, you know, having that time. And I'd come home and we'd go on trips together and be able to do things. And, but that's when I started getting into entrepreneurship. And I was like, I need to go buy apartment buildings. So I bought my first apartment building while living in Japan. It was a 62 unit apartment out in Tennessee. I bought it with a couple guys. Ended up buying more and more. Decided I was going to get out. Seeing all these entrepreneurs start to do the same thing that the military folks did, is they would be, I'm building this business for my family. I'm doing all this for my family. I'm growing this for my family. And they're working 16, 17, 18 hours and never see their family. And I was like, you're not doing crap for your family. You're doing something for your ego. You're not doing anything for your family. So I was like, I don't want to turn that. I could totally have seen myself turning into that on the military side, because I loved to go travel all these places, but I knew I needed to do something better. But I found it almost easier to do it here because, I could justify it because I've got an office in my house. Okay, but if you're in your office 17 hours a day, does it really matter if it's in your house? Your kids still don't see you. So that's when I started the BizDad podcast. Was okay, I want to interview other dads who are crushing it, that are able to run good businesses and be a good dad, so I could steal all of their good ideas. That was really why I started the podcast. So I could have guys like you on, steal your good ideas, take them, apply them to my family. And, you know, if somebody listens to the podcast, great. If not, then I was able to get an interview because I started a podcast. So
yeah. That's great, man. And I'm sure there are a ton of stories, a ton of lessons learned on the show. So obviously, big shout out if you're listening to this podcast or you're on YouTube, I'm guessing as well.
YouTube, all of
just find Adam over on the BizDad podcast. So yeah, that's awesome, brother. I appreciate that. Let's get into sort of the biz part of dad. Yes. And it's funny because I also think of it when I hear it, not see it, but it's like busy. Right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
You're also the busy type of dad. Let's talk about so you real estate, right? That was for sure. When I got into GoBundance in 2020, that was all it's still all they talk about. Yeah. But there were those few gems over the years, like Joe Wexler, who was like M&A. And buying businesses. And then I remember seeing the transition, like slowly but surely, the wave of dudes buying real estate and apartment buildings to like, wait, I want to buy businesses now. And then all of a sudden Cody Sanchez comes out and all that. So let me know where you parachute into sort of that whole, like what piqued your interest and then what was the first business you bought?
Yeah. So I'd actually already had started a business with some friends of mine. So it was already started. I came in to kind of build it out. Active duty, passive income. We teach military members and veterans how to invest in real estate, right? So I was in on almost the ground floor on that with the guys starting it. So I got a taste of being able to mix the business and the real estate. But I joined GoBundance in January of 2020, and I went to an event. I forgot when exactly it was. What's that?
Yeah, it was Aspen. That's when I joined.
So I had missed Aspen. I was not able to go. So I joined like right before Aspen, but I wasn't able to go to Aspen.
Was it Breck?
I went to Breck right after, and Cody Sanchez spoke there before she was like everywhere on the internet.
Nobody knew who she was.
And I was like, this is a phenomenal idea. And one day I'm going to buy businesses because I love that concept, and I'm going to add that to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then I'll skip a bunch of the intermediate stuff, but real estate started being harder and harder to find cash flowing assets. I was very strict with my underwriting, which everybody told me was stupid. They were like, oh, well, you're missing out on all these deals. And then now I'm watching a bunch of deals fall apart. I'm like, I don't think I missed out. Like, I think I was just being wise. Or maybe that's just bias on my part. But it worked out well for me to kind of go, all right, well, let me start looking at buying some businesses now. You know, like I took over as a COO for a little while at ADPI as we were going through some stuff there, got it to a good spot, hired my spot out, stepped away. And I was like, I totally want to start buying businesses now. Like, this is the perfect time. And it lined up with something somebody told me. They were like, hey, like, you can't control the market. but you have to participate in it. So figure out where you can participate in it and then go there. And I was like, well, I'm struggling being able to participate in multifamily real estate, not because it's impossible. You can still go find deals, but because I wasn't getting the deal flow that made sense. But I was like, now is a great opportunity for me to adjust fire and move over to the business side of the house. So that's when I started really digging into it. It was like October of last year, was saying, hey, it's time for me to do this. Now, by this point, I'd already bought into a assisted living facility, which is much more of a business than a real estate venture as well. So, you know, that also got my foot in the door to hey, like I'm a part owner in this now. Let me learn about this. Now it's time for me to go out and buy some of my own. So that's how I kind of got into the business buying side.
Yeah. How much of the assisted living, what a great, you know, sort of sector to be in. That's never going to go away.
Yeah.
So how much of that needs you like in operations or COO sort of
not
activity?
Not much. So I was brought in because of my experience dealing with contractors, particularly contractors that are a pain in the butts, though I repeat myself. So I was brought in to kind of help manage that situation. And so I invested money, came in, tried to help with all of that. Most of that kind of went through its process. And now I go to monthly meetings, help out with finances. Hey, how's things going here? Where are we going? Here's some ideas for this. So it does not require a whole lot of my attention. But I also am not a huge owner in it either, but it doesn't require much of my attention.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I have something really exciting to share with you. My book, Be Your Brand to Glorify God, is officially available. Why this book? Why this book now? Why do you need it? It was the book that I was searching for when I was building my business and I was beginning my walk and then eventually my run into faith. And it was the guide that I wish I had during that time, something to give me strength, confidence, and clarity to keep showing up, creating content, sharing my experiences at the time. It offers stories and biblical principles to support you as you build your business, your personal brand. You want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And spoiler alert, it's not about you. It's not about me. Even though it's called personal branding, it's something much, much bigger. And that's what I needed. That was the clarity that I was searching for. And it's in this book. So if you're a Christian entrepreneur who's on your faith journey and you're ready to stop hiding or being afraid to share your faith, this book is for you. So grab it now on Amazon or head to beyourbrandnow.com where you'll get the book and a free download called Know Your Roots to help you define your core values, which is the first step in building a clear and powerful personal brand. So pick up your copy today and remember to leave a rating and review to help others like you find it when they need it.
You're analyzing deals. How often are you sort of like looking at deals? Is that like just a daily activity?
Daily activity, going through the emails and seeing what's there, what's not. But now I'm I would say under contract, but it's more of a handshake between me and one guy as I'm buying his business. That was not one that came across my email. It came across through. We were at this thing. It's called Trail Life. It's like a Christian version of Boy Scouts, and it has to be hosted at a church and all that type of stuff. But I'm at this and I'm talking about this. Manufacturing company that I really wanted to buy. And I was already, I did the NDA, I walked it, I was doing all the analysis on it. Joe Wexler, you already mentioned his name. I was chatting with him about it, trying to understand, hey, what am I missing here? What am I, these are the numbers I think I could buy it at. And I just couldn't get to where they were asking for it. But I was talking about that deal with one of the guys and he was like, hey, I've got a friend that might be looking to sell his business. And it was an escape room. So that's the one that I'm in the process of getting ready to close on probably next month. And so it like kind of fell in my lap and I was not expecting it at all. I was still very focused on the manufacturing company that ended up falling through. I reached out to them a couple weeks ago and they were like, no, it's under contract with somebody else. So I was hoping that they would budge on the price after a little while because I couldn't get what they wanted. But I don't remember if I answered your question or not.
Well, no. Well, you sparked another question though. Okay. No, I think you did answer it. But the thing is, so real estate.
Yes.
Very familiar, active duty. That's the funny thing is ADPI. Like, I think I interviewed everybody there but you. So, like, I feel so bad. I'm like, man, I literally talked to everybody. But the thing is that's such a cool business that started. And I know the podcast was a big piece of that too.
Yep.
It was, and you guys blew up like overnight. It was so amazing to watch. So the real estate portion though, of you running those type of businesses, analyzing deals, vetting and approving and getting through that whole process, what are some of the similarities to what you're doing now with buying businesses, and what are some of the pros and cons of it?
Yeah. I mean, numbers are numbers. So you just have to learn how the numbers are impacting your business in one way or another. Like we have a bajillion spreadsheets in real estate to be able to kind of say, hey, this is what's going here. But you still have to know, like, okay, when this calculation is done, what does it actually mean? Too many people will just plug numbers in a spreadsheet and say, yeah, but if I tweak this, then all of a sudden I have 8% cash on cash. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know what happened when you tweaked that? Yeah, I can put anything into a spreadsheet, but that doesn't mean that translates to real life. So understanding how expenses translate to real life, understanding how income translates to real life, understanding how people expenses translate to real life. All of that still applies over on the business side, where I get to look at it and say, okay, yes, it's a business. This is going to be sold on a cap rate. It's going to be sold off of an equity multiple. And how can I increase my equity multiple? How can I make that better? Is similar to, okay, how can I make this better on the cap rate? Except the cap rate is completely controlled by the market, and your equity multiple is controlled by the type of business you're in and a couple other different factors, right? So it's really just learning what knobs get turned that changes the valuation of the company, what knobs get turned that changes the profit on your company, right? Can I change some knobs here and there? Maybe I get a VA to do some of my stuff as opposed to an on-site person who's also running X, Y, and Z, and just let the person who's on site run what they're supposed to be running and not worry about any of the superfluous stuff. Like if I want emails sent out, I don't need the person who's supposed to be interacting with my people face to face drafting my email. So what levers can I tweak here and there? So it's all numbers, and what moves make what changes is really all you have to be worried about. And not all you have to be worried about, but the things you need to focus on that are translatable between the two.
So I'm going to relate this to real estate because that's the thing that I'm familiar with. And I want to see if there's similarities in that, focusing on an asset class, say, small multifamilies in a certain area, say like here in New Jersey and Central Jersey, I am very familiar with, the value of these type of homes, say, under 100 units, 50 to 100, say. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what those may be worth. But in buying businesses, do you stay in certain asset classes so that you are familiar with or do you hire or do you do the valuations for each and every type of sector, different type of industry?
So I try to stick with businesses. To me, it's what kind of business would I actually be interested in running? Right. And that is actually going to work well for the future. Right. So home services businesses, for sure. Like those are big ones that people talk about all the time. I like those. I would have never really looked at a escape room if it wasn't for somebody kind of approaching me on it. That would not have been on my list of things to buy. But I don't really look at it as asset classes. I look at it more as so when you're running a business, like a business is a business is a business. Like and an apartment building, for the most part, is an apartment building. You're just adjusting whether you want a high risk, high reward in a D class versus a low risk, low reward in an A class. You're like, okay, that's what I'm analyzing. All right. Do I want to make sure that all of them are within 5 miles of a Publix or a Wegmans, or do I want to make sure, like you're looking at it in that way based on your personal preference? And for me, I'm looking at it like, okay, do I see this? Manufacturing, for instance, was one of those where I said, I definitely want to buy manufacturing because I think manufacturing is something that was not necessarily going to go away. Yes, we'll strap on technology, but I think manufacturing here in America is something that I'd really like to be a part of and trying to build that out. And that was before it became a big thing of now manufacturing in America with Trump taking over and his stuff and pushing all that. But I would just love to manufacture here in America. I'm a made in America kind of guy, so I'd love to be able to do that. So that is the type of asset class, quote unquote, that attracts me to it. So when I'm looking at a business, it's not necessarily set up like an ABCD, like I would look at an apartment building, or how close is it to this, how close is it to that. It's more about what is the business actually doing? Because if there's a concrete business I was looking at that's not too far from me, not near a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't really matter if it's near a whole bunch of stuff because it's a concrete business. I'm making concrete, maybe some cases forming concrete and then bringing the finished product to people. So I don't really necessarily need it to be close to anything. I just need to know that the business itself has a long future and a concrete business has a long future, right? So I'm not worried about it. And if I can buy more of these concrete businesses, this is where it gets fun, is if I buy, 5, 6, 7 of these concrete businesses, and then all of a sudden I roll them up into one and sell them to a PE firm. And now my equity multiple goes from 3 to 7 or 10 because they're looking at it in a much larger way. And I'm like, okay, well, I just turned my equity multiple from 3 to now 7. That's a huge difference in your bottom line when it comes to selling it. So, yeah, that's.
It sounds like you're leveraging a lot of your intelligence and common sense when it comes to evaluating these things. I'm thinking about, some layman like me, like, would it be easier for anyone who's listening or for myself to like say, okay, why don't you just focus on this one type of business at first so that you can, really get to know, understand, like, all those factors, all those variables. Would you recommend that versus opportunities that come on your
I'd say it depends, right? Because, what is it that you, as somebody, well, I'll ask you, Erik, what is it that you're looking for? If you were going to buy a business, why would you want to buy a business over buying an apartment building?
Well, for the quick answer is cash flow, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And passive. So definitely more passive than active.
Okay.
Where it would be cool to have something local, but it doesn't have to be. And yeah, something that you can also participate in, like the escape room's cool. Like your kids, if it's close to home, that's exactly something like that would be very cool. Versus like they're not going to want to visit a concrete, business.
I don't know. But, 2 boys. I've got 2 boys. They may really want to go visit a concrete business and watch the big trucks drive around and maybe sit in the passenger seat, drive it. You never know. So if that's what you're looking for, and you're like, hey, I want some cash flow, I want it to be semi-passive. All right. So the passive thing, I'd caution everybody on, because it's similar to everybody who's like, oh, passive income, like even the name active duty passive income in one of my companies, right? Passive is a relative term, right? The more passive you are, the less control you have as well, right? So if you're completely passive, then you have almost no control in anything that goes on whatsoever. So, if you want to be much more active, you have more control. When it comes to a business like this escape room, I'm going to be working my butt off for at least 3 months inside of the company. Know exactly what's going on, know where things are at, know how things are moving. My kids are going to be in there. They're going to be sitting in there. I may even record a podcast or 2 from in there because of the way my schedule is going to be. But I want to know everything about it so that I know when I find the right person to hire and bring them in, they take it over, and I can step away and just do like a one time a week meeting with them, understand where things are at, make sure that things are getting purchased the way they need to. And I can see how the flow of it's actually going, and then turn it into a more passive thing. So, that's difficult if you're buying from, like I just interviewed another guy from, I think he's in Minnesota, and he bought a business in Idaho, and he spent 3 months out there away from his family. Right. So with me, I would bring my whole family there because my wife's retiring. But you have to know that if this is the thing I'm okay with, if it's far away, I've got to go and work in this business for a little while. Joe talks about the same thing. Joe Wexler. Hey, I'm going to fly into that business, learn about it for a month. Okay, you're spending some time away from your family. Is that something you can handle? So I'm saying all that to say, in your case, if you're looking for cash flow, something you can be a little bit involved with, you're going to probably want to widen your aperture on the type of business because you're going to want something local. So you may not have 50 businesses to choose from local to go buy that are going to, fit that sort of fun and cash flow that you're looking for. So you may have to widen the aperture and say, okay, well, either my distance is going to be a little farther, or the type of business I'm going to buy is going to open up a little bit. But always stick to some principles on what, I'm not going to go buy this Amazon FBA type of stuff that gets sold all the time. I don't want to buy an Amazon sales thing. I don't want to buy something that somebody's running out of their garage. I want to buy a good business, spend in the market for a little while. They've got some cash flow. They know what they're doing. Unlike the escape room is not exactly fitting that mold, but it's also, it's fun to me. So it's not a huge investment. It's fun, and my kids are going to enjoy it. So that was part of the choice on that. So, you have to give and take in certain ways that you wouldn't necessarily do on an apartment building. On the apartment buildings, I always told myself, I'm not going to buy a business. I'm not going to buy an apartment building that I wouldn't be comfortable bringing my wife with me. Now, granted, my wife carried a badge and a gun for years, so she could take care of herself. I'm not overly concerned about it. But it's still my job to be the leader and protector of my family, and I'm not going to put my wife in a situation where it's not her job to be in that situation at that point. So I made different choices based on that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, the last question to this, and I want to jump back into, and bookend this conversation with, sort of our faith, and that, so evaluating businesses, you really piqued my interest here. And I'm hoping, somebody else who's listening, this friend of mine, will be like, hey, man, I love that episode with Adam. I want to buy business now. In that, it sounds like something for like the escape room example, when you told me offline that it doesn't have marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have sales because he doesn't have marketing.
Yep.
Like, that's the very top of the funnel, bro. You got to pay attention to that. That's my superpower. There's like branding, marketing, sales. So what would you recommend as far as like, if I analyze, or anyone who's listening here analyzes a business, should you look for something that could benefit greatly from your superpower? Like if you see finances are a mess, you're like, oh, I'm going to come in, I could easily clean that. Or what are your thoughts?
I love that you pulled that out perfectly. Is yes, if you know who you are and what your superpower is. I know that day-to-day operations are not my superpower. I learned that when I was doing day-to-day operations. I was great. I always tell people, like, if the bullets are flying, literal or figurative, I'm very calm under pressure. I can manage what's going on. It does not freak me out. I can make the right decisions. I can do the right things. But the second things are calm and things are running the way they're supposed to, I am just, it irks me. Like I've got to find, like, I need to leave. I need to be gone. Somebody else needs to run it. That's not my superpower. So,
yes.
And part of being that superpower is finding the right people for the right seats. Like, okay, let me hire and fire the right people. This person's the right person for that seat. This person's not the right person. Let's get rid of them. In your case, marketing. You're like, okay, I know how to market really well. So, this person, I know their marketing is terrible. And if their marketing was better, they would spring load. They seem to have all the right people, or at least I know the person that's going to be able to tell me if it's the right people, if that's not you. Because similar to apartments, you can buy a business with your team. And if that's not your superpower, then great, hire out your superpower. Like, that's what you need to do. And hire a 9 for your superpower. Like, hire the person that's the best person for that job and give them the golden handcuffs, let them stay in that position and crush it for you. That you could focus on your superpower. So I would definitely say that that's something to look at. For me, it just happens to be that I'm pretty good at hiring and firing the right people, which 9 times out of 10 is most of the problems in business. So if you have the right people in the right seats, the business kind of takes care of itself. So that's kind of where I thrive, is being able to say, nope, you're good. You're out. Thank you very much. And firing is actually, I want to say this as I almost just flippantly said, I'm firing people. Firing somebody is actually a gracious thing to do for them. It feels like it's a terrible thing because we have such a stigma around the term firing. But when you look at it, like, you're only not successful in this job because it's not the job for you. You will be successful in the job that is the job for you. And if it's not the job for you, I need to help you get there. Like, why be miserable sitting in this job, hearing things that I'm complaining to you about for the 15th time? Like, why don't we find something? And if I could tell you're a good person, I'll even help you find the job.
Yes.
But I need to let you go on to move on to the next thing. And I was just listening to Patrick Bet-David like 2 days ago, and he said something very similar. He's like, I had this guy who was a hard worker, but I could tell that he wasn't fitting where I needed to be. So I'd ask him, I said, hey, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. Is this the train you want to be on? And he's like, And he's like, I can tell it's not. What is the train you want to be on? And he said, if I'm honest, like, that would be the train I'd want to be on. And he was like, great. I know you're a solid worker. Would you like me to help you get an interview over there? Because I want you to be on the train that you're best fit for. And he helped him get an interview over at that other place. Because if you're a good worker, why would I not? Like, I know you're a good worker. This just isn't the train for you. So I wanted to throw that out there, just so people don't think that you're flippantly firing people. You're firing people for the right reasons.
Yeah. Do you think there's also a step right before that? Like, hey, I'm going to recommend you to another business. Is there a step to say, hey, is there a place there, where on this bus can we place you? For sure. That is a better fit for you.
If they fit the culture, then you want to try to keep them, right? If they fit the culture, then you want to try to keep them. But if you have 4 marketers that all fit the culture, you can't keep all 4 of them, right? You only need my one marketing guy. That's all I need.
Gotcha.
So, there's some things that you just can't fit. But yes, I will gladly try to, if they're a good person, they're a good worker, and they fit the culture, I want to do everything I can to keep them. But again, it's one of those too, that if they're a good fit, they fit the culture, they're motivated, but they're entrepreneurial and they want to chase something, All right, well, I may need to help you help you learn this so that you can do it in your own business and help you on your way to your own business, because everybody's got a seat they need to be in. And it's one of those, like, is my vision big enough to fit your vision in it? If it is, then let's keep you going here. If you don't, if you're just kind of idle and you don't necessarily have a vision, but you're a good worker, I need you too. Like, let's get you in the right seat. But I always want to keep people if they're the right fit for the culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. I love how hands-on you are with that. That's fantastic. So yeah, brother, last-ish question, this could be the penultimate, but when you're doing all this, because I know you own and operate a lot of businesses, how much of it is infused with your faith, and, how was that typically received? It's a lot of different, areas that you operate in. So how was that received? And, like, are you intentional with that? Is that in the forefront or in the back of your mind?
It's becoming more in the forefront as I move forward in this venture, right? So before, it wasn't necessarily a part of it. And I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, roughly, maybe 2 years ago, Ryan Pineda had said something on his podcast. Do you know who Ryan Pineda is? He's If you like
real
marketing, you probably know who he is, right?
But he's a Filipino guy who's in real estate, so it sounds familiar.
He's a Christian as well, right? And he talked about that he was talking specifically about the Christian side of the house, and he was talking about, and I think I even said the term earlier, unequally yoked. And if you're a Christian, you've heard the term unequally yoked, and we usually refer to it as a Christian marrying a non-Christian, right? But he talked about it in a business aspect of, how about maybe you should look at it in all aspects of your life and not being unequally yoked in the business aspect, because there's going to be a part in there's likely going to be a point in time, sometime in the future, where your Christian ethics, your ethics as a Christian, are going to be impacted by somebody in the business that may not be looking at it the same way you do. And it doesn't mean that they're looking at it unethically, but just the way that you are looking at a business as a Christian and how you want to operate it may be different than them. And you're going to run into a problem of being unequally yoked inside of that business. So it's funny, as I'm buying this escape room, the other two partners, I told you I met one of them at Trail Life, which was the Christian Boy Scouts, and so I already knew him a little bit, and I knew he was a Christian. And then the other guy wanted to meet me as well, and the guy who sold it to me, he even asked me, he's like, before I agree to this, can you tell me your testimony? I want to know who you are as a Christian before I decide to actually sell this to you. So we had conversations about that, and it was one of those that I'm so glad that I'd heard Ryan Pineda mention that before, and I started to look at other things in my life that were going the way they were, and I was like, boy, I really like the concept of, rather than if I'm I love the idea of having the business 100% my own, right? I would love that ultimately, but I also like working on a team. So if I'm going to work on a team and I'm going to have partners, maybe I should look at that the same way, as not being unequally yoked, and find good Christian partners to be able to run this. And so I sat down and had breakfast with one of the partners, and he was like, look, I want to own as many businesses in an area as I can. He's like, I'm not going to be the guy. He's like, I'm running my own business. I'm not going to be the guy that's like the flag carrier running around doing all this stuff. But I want to know that good Christian dudes are owning good businesses and telling people about the Lord through their business. Maybe not explicitly, but hey, I love the way they run their business. I wonder what it is about that person, and the fruit that we're producing, people see. So
I love it. So good. So good, brother. Man, I want to continue talking about this. I feel like we should have a part 2 here. But yeah, it's fantastic to hear that this is starting to develop and grow and bear, fruit in your life, and that there's partnerships there that are developing. I definitely see and feel the Lord is moving through this, all with you and for you, which is beautiful, dude. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. And, I highly recommend people look you up as far as BizDad. Where else can people find you?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. You can find me at adamlabarr.com if you want to learn a little bit more about me. You can go to all the BizDad stuff, BizDad Podcast. You can reach out to me, Adam at ralcapitalgroup.com. Yeah, I'm all over.
Dude, I have one last thing for you. I call it Burner Bliss, and it is a segment of the show where we have a little bit of fun.
Oh boy.
And
what was
you're
the rest
able
of this? None of this other stuff was fun? Gracious.
Dude, this was all fun, man. But this is going to spark a couple things. But also, you're going to be able to. I'm going to throw out a couple of words, and then you can say burn or bliss. Meaning you can kind of figure that out, and then at the end you can expand on one of them.
So like, hey, let me you want to get rid of it. Bliss, if it gives me bliss, is that?
Yeah, or you have high hopes for it, or it's going to crash and burn. So for example, I'll throw you an easy one: Disney.
Burn. Yeah. Yeah. One of those that I was able to use great conversations with my kids. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, that's such a sad story. What's happened there?
Yeah.
But EVs.
Bliss. I think those are going to continue.
Yes. Let's see here. What about? I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm pulling off of my memory. Social media in terms of business.
Boy. A lot of people burn, a few people bliss, depending on how you use it.
Gotcha. And lastly, AI in business.
Boy, that actually it goes right back to the social media thing, because again, it depends on how you use it. But I'd say that's going to be, bliss for sure, but I think it's going to burn a lot of people.
Yeah. Which one of those you want to expand on?
All of them. I'm going to go with Disney. I really want to do the AI and social media thing. So I might touch on that a little bit. But the reason I want to go to Disney, is it's one of those things that's, when I had a conversation with my wife recently, I was just shocked on all the things that I see going on in the world. Like all of this removing of healthy body parts from kids, all of the craziness being thrown in front of our kids. And I was like, what is happening in the world? And then I had to step back and I said, you idiots, this has been going on since Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Like, the world is what the world is, and we need to be aware of it. And when somebody shows you what they're a part of, like, do everything you can to bless the person, but don't be a part of that life, right? And I don't want my kids to be a part of that life. My mother-in-law had Disney on the TV at her house. They were cooking. My wife was there. Nobody thought anything of it. I came in. I was doing something for work. I come in. And I walk by, and this guy is, it's like a high school type of setting, right? And this guy's dressed up in this like fairy outfit, and he's running away like very boisterous and all this stuff. He's like, I feel free. I feel like myself again, and all this stuff. And they were like, I'm so happy that you're able to express yourself in the way you want. And you could see where it was actually trying to go. They weren't super blatant about it, but I was like, we're shutting this off. And I said, just these small little things that they're throwing in front of your kids, these small little things that are happening around you, you don't understand necessarily what it's doing if you're not paying attention to it. And I'm not saying that everything is out to get you. It's not. Not everything is out to get you. But the world is what the world is. And you need to be aware of where we're living and what's going on around you. And if you're not involved in your kid's life, somebody is going to be. I've arrested a lot of them. I promise you, somebody is going to be involved in your kid's life if you're not. So be an active parent. Be an active part of your kid's life. Even being proactive and shutting off silly things that are on Disney. There are amazing things that are on Disney that I really want my kids to be a part. Like, I love a lot of the Marvel stuff. My kids love it. I love to have Disney Plus on my TV again. But I can't open up the door to allow some of the nonsense that goes on in the world. Not that my kids don't know it's there. I talk to them about it. They know why we don't watch it. They know what's going on. So I'm not trying to shelter them, but I'm trying to help make sure that the doors are closed to things that aren't healthy for them. So yeah. If we had more time, I'd go into the AI and social media side of the house. But
yeah, I love it, dude. Dude, bonus. Which one of those you want to unpack?
So I'd say that the social media, I said that it's going to burn. A lot of it's going to be burned. Some of it's going to be good. Those who I think have an authentic voice and are pushing themselves out. I think YouTube recently just made a thing that they said they're not going to monetize anything that is AI, that is produced by AI. So no longer folks that are producing things that are getting a bunch of subscribers on things that are produced by AI are going to be monetized on YouTube, because they want the authentic content coming from a person, not all this ultra produced stuff that has nothing to do from the person that's there. So if you are using using AI to help build your business and help do your things, I think it's going to be great. If you're using it to create your content and build your social media, I think it's like actually do the social media stuff. I think it's going to fall apart because people are missing the authenticity side of the house. They can't replicate this conversation at the moment with AI by any means. But yet this is authentic. You're finding out who I am a little bit behind the curtain. You're finding out who Erik is behind the curtain. So I think that use AI for the right reasons, use social media for the right reasons, or both of them are going to burn you.
Love it. So good. So succinct. So powerful, brother. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for, spending some time with me. It was always good to see you and chat, man. So, yeah, brother. Anytime, man.
And by the way, nobody has ever said I'm succinct. I talk way too much to be succinct. So
no, that was knowing that we had to land the plane. You're like, I got this, bro. Just give it to me. I love it, brother. Thank you so much. And again, how can people reach out to you? How can people connect?
Yep. Adam at ralcapitalgroup.com. You can go to adamlabar.com. There's things to reach out to me on there. You can learn a little bit about me. You'll see it says family first, Christ-centered, and
family focused, Christ-centered, growth-minded.
There we go. Growth-minded. Yeah. The heck with the growth. Stay focused on Christ. The growth will happen, right? So.
AdamLabarr.com. That's Adam spelled like Adam, and LABARR.com. So
correct.
Yeah. Go check him out. Reach out to him. Obviously, he makes a fantastic guest. So if you have a podcast, please reach out to him. I'm sure he'll be happy to have a conversation.
No, I don't like talking, so don't. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Erik. Appreciate it.
If you were inspired or you learned something new today, please give us a like or a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. If you want to learn more about how to build your YouTube channel, your personal brand or podcast, hit us up at info@onairbrands.com. That's info@onairbrands.com so that we can find ways that we can help you. I'm Erik Cabral, and I hope that I added value in your life today.